Okay. Welcome to the Well Crafted Man podcast, everybody. This is episode 6, where we are going to be talking about how men are portrayed in media and confidence and how we carry ourselves in the world. Um, my internet's a little bit unstable for the YouTube viewers, but hopefully that'll sort itself out here in a minute. Um, so we were just talking about how some people will just apologize simply for existing in the world. The example I used that Nick was going to kick off was when you like are walking down the street and it's your fault that you're in the way of someone, but they still apologize to you. They say, "Oh, sorry." It's almost like they're apologizing to you for taking up space, and I'm not okay with that. I think that we should be able to take up space. Um,
I absolutely agree. And for those who I do know who do that, apologizing, um, I try my best to tell them when in the moment, don't say sorry to me. What are you saying sorry for?
yeah,
Um, for some reason, a lot of these people, and I haven't put enough thought into it yet, but the people I know who do apologize all the time, they don't have like a spacer in between. Like apologizing is their spacer. They're taking up of time is apologizing, and it feels like insecure.
I think it is. I think it's
Yeah.
a habit they picked up as kids. Um, maybe that they learned from parents or teachers or something, that it's easier just to say, "Oh, sorry," and then move on, instead of making it a big deal with someone, like, um, which is kind of detrimental. Like, we all deserve to take up space. We all deserve to be the fullest versions of ourselves. And if that means being a jerk from time to time, then let's be a jerk from time to time. So taking up space is something that a lot of people have trouble doing, um, where we sort of learn to be background wallflowers. And I think the apology is an extension of that. Like, we don't want to inconvenience people. Our generation, especially, we call it being nice, um,
Nice to a fault,
to a
right?
fault. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Sacrificing yourself for others. That's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, and it's not something that you would connect to strong masculine. Um, when I think of the strong, we're talking about like media portrayal. When I think of a strong masculine man, in the media, I think of this Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock, um, who he's got faults, he's got issues, he's very flawed, but he knows how to stand up for what he wants, and he knows how to like work with people, and um, kind of have that energy of like, this is what I want, and I'm gonna make it happen no matter what, uh, because he just has that inherent energy. But he's a fictional character, you know. So
Yeah, but fictional characters are based off of some level of human reality, and I like where you were touching on there. He still stands up for what he wants. What he wants. Um, I'm kind of spitballing here, but plausibly, the people who are very apologetic, for no reason, maybe are not in tune with their wants, right?
yeah.
Like, what do you want in this world? They're just idle. And the example that I think I was bringing up earlier before we had some technical difficulty was all the people I know who do this. I've known as an adult. Not I didn't experience this in childhood or when I was in school, because none of us had jobs back then. But once we entered the workforce and being preliminary service workers, right on the front lines of I'm sorry, can I help you? Or I'm sorry that this happened to
Mm-hmm.
you, or whatever. You get conditioned that way. I mean, I worked in a grocery store for 7 years, and I remember after my first year, because I got a job before all my friends did. So in that first year of working, before my friends started working there, I noticed a difference in myself where I started saying thank you all the time. We'd be at the end of football practice. All right, later, bro. Thank you. For what? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those things kind of are forced upon us or forced onto us because of our occupations, especially if you aren't educated yet and you have to be on the front lines of service work. You're going to be saying sorry a lot. And I think part of that is a conditioning thing that lands onto the people. But then, you know, to make it a little more complex, they are not in tune with themselves, their wants and their needs. And so they allow that conditioning to completely overtake them. And then they're apologizing all the time. Even if I do something wrong, like your example, when you're on the wrong side of the street and you're in their way and they still say sorry.
Yep.
I will do something that is overtly wrong and they will apologize.
And now
or
I'm
tell them a
thinking
story.
of people who, last week I talked about this hierarchy of development, and there's people who their entire existence is built around convincing themselves that they deserve to take up space. And most of the time they don't even know it. So people that have that work out really with a very arrogant sort of method to it, very self-indulgent kind of working out, or tattoos, or really cool hair, or plastic surgery. It's like their whole experience is trying to convince themselves that they're cool and that they're interesting and that they're sexy, and that and it's all just saying it's just them saying to themselves over and over again, I'm okay, I deserve to take up space. One thing
I agree with
to look
that.
for is people with wild hair. Not to say that there's anything wrong with having wild hair, but to me it feels like having a really flamboyant hairstyle is it's like wearing a suit of armor. And I'm not the first person to make this equivalency, but it's oh, my hair's so cool. Oh, they're gonna, when we were kids and we were just kind of trying to find ourselves and trying to figure out what we were doing, and there was that temporary hair dye that was oh, my hair's red today, what are they gonna think? Oh, so edgy.
Yeah, it's when you bring that up, it's sparking little flags in my head of things that I've observed and not really acknowledged. Things I've seen in the gym. You're so right. There's so many people there who are there to tell themselves that they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from and to an extent I do that as well. That's part of why I'm at the gym also. Working out makes me feel okay.
Yeah. But are you doing it to convince yourself that you're super fit and super cool?
No, I'm trying to push the limits of my genetic potential. So I'm going at it in more of a scientific progression of physique building and nutrition.
Well, you are. That's not to say that there's anything wrong with trying to make yourself feel okay. I feel
no. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The example that I was bringing up were people who, because there's a clear difference, especially when you understand when you're going into the gym with a goal in mind, an actual goal in mind. I want to do this. I want to max out my genetic potential. I want to increase my bench or whatever your goal is. You're going in there with a goal. The people who are going in there to make themselves feel okay don't necessarily have that kind of goal. And they don't even really know that they're there for the goal of making themselves feel okay. And it's super obvious. And that's most people in the gym.
And it's just one of the stages of the human experience. Is that question that we all have to ask ourselves at a certain point is, am I okay? And then we run into some form of stress that puts us in a situation where we have to prove to ourselves that we are okay. Where we find our friends and we get validation, and it's yes, I can do this, whatever it is in front of me, I can work it out. And sometimes we don't overcome that. But then as soon as you overcome that, there's just something else in front of it. So being at this stage in life, it's not a bad thing. It's just it's one of the many things that we run into. It's finding yourself and finding who you are, and then you move on into finding like a community that you vibe with. And so I wanted to put that caveat in because I feel like it seemed like we were just talking trash about people who want to dress well and have cool hair and stuff, but that's
Yeah,
not the
absolutely. Yeah, that's not the case. And I have my own
case.
examples
Yeah, we
of
all do.
how, yeah, where I'm telling myself I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that, geez, just I'm not gonna go into specifics, but I'm right there with everyone else who's doing that as well. So, we're not immune to it just because we have some bullshit podcast.
Yeah, we're literally putting out a podcast for some form of validation, maybe not emotional validation, but like monetary or professional, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
When you
yeah.
look at behavior specifically for the behaviors aspect and not just for what it is, seeing the forest for the trees, as they say.
It's fascinating. So all of us have something that we do, or some little part of us within our psyche that is asking the question, am I okay? And then that part of us manifests itself in reality in a myriad of different ways, and takes that objective view of yourself to figure out what it is, if that is your goal, if you want to find out what it is you are doing to make yourself feel okay.
So I pulled up the chart. It's Erickson's stages of psychosocial development. So the first stage, trust versus mistrust. It's when you're an infant. And then autonomy versus shame and doubt. Like, can you do autonomous actions? Are you capable of that? And then initiative versus guilt. Can you think for yourself? Can you move for yourself? Industry versus inferiority. That may be what we're touching on. And then I think the big one is identity versus role confusion. And that is, in his mind, and these are fluid, but age 13 to 21 years, which is a huge part of human development.
Yeah, probably some of the most important part.
Yeah, and that's when you're finding out who you are in the world. And if you don't find that, then you're going to have issues around that. I think it's interesting.
Wildly interesting.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating. And when you know what you're looking for, I use a different lens than Erickson. His was more classic, but when you know what you're looking for with these lenses, it's clear as day. But then the training of the psychology training comes in, and that, like I keep saying over and over again, is that it's not bad because we're all in some stage.
Absolutely.
So being judged for the stage that you're in is a very painful thing to have happen. So,
well, no way you should be doing that either,
Yeah.
Judging you for whatever state you're in, because at some point in your being, somewhere, some part of you is on the same level as the person that you are judging. Yeah. Like, we are multifaceted organisms, and we are not on the same level of development everywhere on the full spectrum that is our human consciousness.
Speaking of judgment and masculinity, there's this book that this gal named Shneo Roman wrote. I think that was her name. And she had this line where she said, if you're judging other people for things, just in general, for anything, if you judge other people, then you are subconsciously judging yourself for the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
So if you want to get past that, then stop judging other people, because if you're thinking about someone who's got like a zit or who's like overweight, then you're just immediately going to be thinking about like, oh, I can't, if I get zits, then, I'll feel, then people won't appreciate me. Or if I don't stay skinny, then people will, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it's incredible. I had an example exactly like that in my notes somewhere, but I've lost it. But I completely concur. When you are any sort of, at least based on your definition, and then also looking at myself in previous behaviors of my life, any sort of judgment or fixation on somebody's personality or whatever it may be was always a projection.
Yeah.
Almost always a projection.
80%.
Yeah, you find that within yourself and you don't acknowledge the fact that it's in there. Yep. And you're putting it on somebody else. Yeah, that's rampant as well.
Hollow. It's like it's like this empty existence where you are constantly jumping from person to person. Oh, did you hear what they said? What a jerk. Oh, I can't believe this person, you know. And it's constant and it's unfulfilling, so you're always kind of reaching for that and trying to get some sort of comfort out of putting other people down, but it never comes.
I know I had that example somewhere.
Don't worry about it. I think you did a fine job.
It may have been.
I'm judging you for losing your notes.
Idiot can't hang on to his notes.
So I want to talk about how men are portrayed in media.
I would love to talk about that as well. And how does the way men are portrayed in media help or
hurt?
Yeah, help or hurt, or how does it continue this weird confidence paradigm that we were just talking about, where we have overly apologetic people, and this is men and women, by the way. But here we're going to talk about just men. How does the portrayal of men in the consumed media that we exist in affect us in our confidence levels? Mm. And I've got a few examples of media icons out there that are in the male role. So I guess we'll just start with the first one I have, which was the husband, which I'll Google his name, but the husband, the dad from Married with Children. Mm. If anyone out there has seen that show, which most people should have. It's a great show. An old show, was it? Was it the 90s? Like mid-90s?
Yeah, I think it was early 90s. It was, from what I remember seeing bits and pieces of it, it was a little bit before my time, but...
87 to 98.
Yeah, wow. That's a long run.
Yeah, they did a good job. That Christina Applegate.
She's cute. Do you know the dad's name?
So Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy.
Al Bundy. So Al Bundy was very famous for channeling his emotions through anger. They were kind of playing off that old honeymooners thing of like, oh, my wife makes me so upset. You know, I'm gonna hit her. You know.
And he expressed it in big amounts of sarcasm. He never actually hit her. You know,
it was
he never
a lot of
actually
anger.
Did it.
There's a lot of they don't do it. It's TV, but there's a lot of anger in there.
He definitely said it.
Yeah, and he said he was going to. And then I think if we're going early 90s, I think the relationship between Will Smith and Uncle Phil in Fresh Prince was incredible, especially in the later years when they started getting a little bit serious with their plot lines. Uncle Phil was an incredible role model, and that's a show that I did watch.
Yeah, he's a great example of a mentor in there. Yeah. He's almost the antithesis of you know, some other icons that we'll bring up later.
Because he was emotionally vulnerable with his wife and with his family. He was firm when he had to be, in touch with his anger. I remember a few times when he got angry. But it was righteous anger, which Americans are obsessed with.
We sure are.
He was awesome. You know what I hate? Can I tell you what I hate? Is the bumbling idiot man stereotype.
Oh gosh. You know, Al Bundy could have also been, you know, lumped into that category as the bumbling idiot man.
Yeah. Brian Regan had a joke where he made fun of it, where he was talking about commercials in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like the man would be trying to clean the blinds and then he'd get tangled up in the blinds, and then he's like stuck in the blinds, and the wife is like, "Oh, my husband is so stupid," and then she has to fix it. And it's like, but that's demeaning, and that's
It is.
it's something that's still perpetuated. A lot of movies that have come out lately that have like the female lead, which is great, but like the Ghostbusters and that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, where it's like all women.
I didn't watch
11.
it.
The issue that a lot of them, Charlie's Angels, the issue that a lot of them run into is that they put men in a very condescending position in these movies where the men are stupid and they don't know what they're doing and they're awful, and that's perpetuating that like men are weak.
Yeah, I agree. Not that we're weak. We have strength within us that is just untapped, right? And this brings me to one of my other icons I wanted to bring up, which was Jerry Smith from Rick and Morty. Probably one of the
that's a perfect example.
Yeah, one of the more contemporary ones there.
The whole family is demeaning towards him.
Yeah, because he's an idiot. He is played out to be a complete idiot, and then also his character does really dumb shit. Like the Jerry daycare episode was amazing. It
was hilarious.
It just showed how dumb and
but then
worthless.
You think about this guy. He loves his family. He's trying to make it work, even though he doesn't know what
loyal.
He's doing.
Yes, he's still wholeheartedly loyal to his family.
He's trying. Yeah, he's doing his best. He's got.
But he just isn't good.
His family is way smarter than he is. They're super manipulative to him. They're super mean to him. But he's a good man. He really cares. And then the humor comes out in that they treat him like dirt. Which it's a joke. It's a TV show, so you can't take it too seriously. But at the same time,
there's some level of human truth to the example that is given of Jerry Smith. You know,
and granted, this is something that women have been dealing with for a long time. I think in the real world, like that sort of being manipulated and being controlled and being dominated. So we don't like it when we see it, but. So I'm trying hard not to manipulate or dominate the women in my life, you know. So in the interest of fairness, I feel like I should say that, but it's interesting that it's almost like they're normalizing not being confident.
Yeah, they're normalizing. They're normalizing the, or maybe not normalizing. Well, yeah, normalizing, but more than that, making it more than just acceptable, but almost like expected to underperform.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I have this task for this man, you know, as a woman or as a man, whatever. I've got a task for another man. Oh, he completely fucked it up. Yeah. Who didn't expect that?
He's like the joke was he's stuck in the blinds. How'd he get there? You know?
Yeah. And that is, I'm trying to refrain from using the word terrible, but it's terrible. That's not a good way to portray the man you will eventually be. Yeah. You know, showing that to a child. The way kids are pacified with media nowadays, nobody gives a crap to tell their kid anything. Here's an iPad, and then they look at their iPad forever, and that's what they're being fed. That's what they're going to think they're supposed to be.
And they could be celebrating strength and courage and, you know, loving your family and celebrating the right things.
And how does that conflict? How does that conflict with, let's say, their dad or their grandpa or whatever in their life is a great man and is the opposite of what they're being fed all the time?
Yep.
How are they supposed to know what's what? Because the dad obviously isn't, you know, completely there to tell the kid and teach the kid everything. That's why the kid has the iPad that it's being fed information from.
There's a show I like.
Which one are they going to pick?
There's a show I like called Bob's Burgers that I was just reminded of that the family is super condescending to the dad character.
Yeah.
It's like a running joke that he does not have an opinion in their family, that he just does what he's told. And even by the kids, they walk all over him.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's still trying to run that burger joint, and he comes up with his own ideas and gets everybody in on it, whatever.
Mhm.
Just every episode, for the sake of the episode being funny, he fails always.
Yep. It's
Like
tough.
it's fun. It's a fun show, you know, but I think there's a lack of acknowledgement of the implications of what it is that they're putting out there.
Yeah.
On a mass scale.
Yeah.
We could probably rattle off shows all day that fit this sort of criteria.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. Which is why I initially went to Jack Donaghy in 30 Rock, because he was so well portrayed in that he, you know, like I said, he had fears and you know, dislikes and all these realistic things that we as men go through. But he did a really good job of taking control and being who he knew he was, and being confident in that. And that, you know, not every guy has to be like the 90s action hero who's gruff and strong but silent. But there's strength in being sensitive, and there's courage in being emotionally vulnerable, and recognizing that and being able to sort of grow through that as a core strength is incredibly powerful. I would say that even being an emotionally vulnerable man is one of the bravest things that we can do in modern America that's like safe, you know.
I would agree, man. Like I'm the kind of person who wears his emotions on his sleeve, you know.
Yeah, me too.
And my family picks up on it, you know, tremendously. But however, I do have a job that is in public, you know.
Yep.
So I carry this shield, this facade, you know, just completely blocking it. But how much better would it be if I was able to just express myself and then work through that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let it be socially acceptable for you to be emotionally vulnerable instead of just trying to fight everyone who doesn't wear their stupid mask.
Yep.
You know,
We have two emotions, I think, that we're allowed to show in public, and that's good-natured or angry, and that's all that we get.
I show anger all the time in public.
But there's a million things other than that. There's you know, grief, there's sadness, there's nervousness, there's everything, and we're not allowed to show that. I'm thinking back to some of the jobs that I have where I didn't particularly care about my coworkers, but I wouldn't show them anything. I wouldn't give them a single thing, and that comes from somewhere. You know, and a lot of it comes from what we're raised with media.
Dude, I get that. That's how I operate right now.
Yeah.
You know, I keep this wall of aggression in front of me. And then the few people who do get a peek behind it, I'll recognize. This is another thing. I'm conditioned to understand, oh, I noticed that I just gave up a little bit of myself. And I will quadruple back and build that wall even higher than it was the day before.
Yeah.
And that's a really funny thing, you know. I feel compelled to be that way. It's just how everything is, right?
I think the reframe for that, I was just listening to Way of the Superior Man again.
Fantastic.
Which you can pick up on thriftbooks.com. Thriftbooks.com does not sponsor us, but we really want them to. So Thriftbooks, please give me money. Way of the Superior Man, the way that you reframe that is that when you feel like you give up a piece of yourself like that, like a guarded piece of yourself, it's like a siphon that pulls that energy, that life force out of you into the ether. But what if in the act of pulling that life force out, it gets replaced with compassion? And you put yourself out there into the world, and then you're not met with judgment, but you're met with respect for it. And you're met with care and love and compassion. And then suddenly that you don't get emptied out from it, you get filled even bigger.
Gosh,
Because
dude,
then
that doesn't exist.
theoretically it exists with partners.
with if you it exists with partners if you can find a partner who knows that that's a thing first off, and then is emotionally stable within themselves,
is stable enough to do that.
yeah, to do that for you. But in my lifetime, that is completely non-existent. Even the people closest to me.
Well, yeah, and you just said that when you give a piece of yourself away, you build that wall even taller.
Yeah, because it's so weird, you know, that you hear the complaint of toxic masculinity, but then when you give up a little bit of yourself, you open yourself up to be, you know, ridiculed or taken advantage of, or any other negative thing you can think about. And I'm 10 for 10, and I'm boiling it down to 10 because the number is a lot larger than 10. But I'm 10 for 10. I'm 100% on anytime anything's been given up, it's been flipped on me, you know, and so I have to keep that iron wall all the time. I have to be firing arrows at everyone all the time.
Yeah, being emotionally vulnerable is extremely difficult. It's very brave to put yourself out there like that.
It's difficult because when you are making yourself emotionally vulnerable, you're essentially asking for help, and you're not getting it. You're actually getting the opposite of it, and that's all you get. And that's the world we live in. We have all these bumbling idiots as we're portrayed as men. We're bumbling idiots who are
toxic.
Yeah, loyal to a fault. Yeah, then the flip side of that is they're just overly masculine and toxic and are evil people. Like
Al Bundy,
the antithesis to Jerry and Rick and Morty would be Rick, where Rick was not the loyal family man. He was gone forever, you know, but he's like the greatest guy in the whole wide world, right? But he was never there as the family man. The family man is Jerry, but he's a fucking idiot. So what are we trying to say with that? You know, and anytime Rick showed any sort of emotional vulnerability, he ended up in some crazy alien prison or something else. And only when he reverted back to his iron wall robotic killer status was he redeemed as the cool Rick who got out of jail and toppled the empire of the bug people or whatever.
Using his intelligence and his sort of nihilistic worldview as armor, as protection from
armor and a weapon.
And it made emotional, which a lot of people do. A lot of men do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah. Because
that's the world we live in. That's what everyone expects. As soon as you give up any bit of yourself, hey, I feel this way. And I've, especially in recent times with what's been going on, is people will only bring up the trauma they learned from you when they're trying to make you feel shitty. And I've experienced this where somebody's like, hey, so how do you feel about the thing that's happening right now that I happen to know about? And it must be so lonely. It must be so sad. It must be so all these things. And then when my answer is, yeah, let's talk about it, they try to disappear.
A lot of times we as men, we don't know how to handle someone who is ready to share that. I remember...
if you bring it up, are you just trying to make me feel shitty, or do you want to talk about it?
Because we know intellectually that we should be able to, but we aren't trained to be able to do it. Because even as young men, as children, when we scrape our ankle and we cry, or when we scrape our knee and we cry, we're told, toughen up. Rub some dirt on it, get up, feel better. And it's like, well, that's really invalidating towards our experience. And that causes you to bottle up and feel judged, and that causes you to bottle up, which causes you to release everything in the form of anger, because that's an acceptable emotion for men. And then it causes blow-ups. It's a huge problem. When I first started going to school for psychology, for counseling, I was doing a lot of work on myself. And I became very in tune with this issue and with these feelings, and I started sharing more readily, like an honest experience of what I was going through. And because my school was filled to the brim with therapists in training, I was met with a lot of warmth and a lot of compassion and people that were actually there for me. And it was like,
Yeah, it must be nice.
it was amazing. It was this whole other world. I had this issue with a girl that I was seeing, and like things were falling apart with that, and I felt terrible. And just to be met with like this loving kindness and this positive regard that like, yeah, we know that it sucks and we're there for you. I'm speaking generally, of course. It was amazing. It changed. I feel like it changed my whole life experience of what could be. Um, but I was in school for psychology with a bunch of very empathetic and very caring people, and that is not a realistic expectation for the world.
No, it's less than a percentage of.
But I think that's the epitome of a relationship, like a partnership, is to have someone see you for exactly who you are, all of your faults, all of your strengths, all of everything, and not judge you poorly for it. That we give that to our partners, to the women in our lives, that the things that they hate about themselves, which is pretty rampant, and we love that, and we love that about them. We love that they hate it about themselves. We love that they, feel self-conscious about their hair because it's adorable and it's cute and it's very sweet and it's very genuine. And then when they get met with that, and we don't say, "Oh, your hair is stupid," we say, "Oh, you're a beautiful woman no matter what," or something like that. Then that empowers them to live better lives. And then when we receive it, it can change the entire male experience. It's tough. It's very nuanced. I think we're assuming that things go well with society. I think we're on the cusp of a sort of new men's revolution of kind of men's psychology and kind of moving out of being toxic and having toxic things perpetuated against us, and into a more healthy frontier.
When you said society, it's certainly a societal responsibility that we all together need to be on this same page.
Yeah.
Because the bumbling idiot dad, Jerry Smith, the not there for his family, but on this mystical journey of greater purpose. Where is my dad? Oh, he's out there in the universe fighting, the empire or whatever. Like these things are ingrained in all the media that all of us consume, and it's constant to the point where that is our realities.
Mm-hmm.
The way I yield myself for my partner in my relationship, the way others do as well, follow these sorts of I guess archetypes that have been laid out for us by current media. And it's not healthy to your actual manhood, and all of us together need to change that.
Yeah.
However, there needs to be someone who's really good at writing, or just somebody creative, to make a entertaining TV show that has the strong male model. Because when you're talking about 30 Rock or the Parks and Recreation guy or whatever, these strong dudes who do strong dude things, they're not the main character.
Yeah.
They're tertiary at best.
Yeah.
They're all the way back there. Why is that? How did we get that guy to be the main character?
I think it's hard to make an entertaining TV show where people are emotionally healthy.
Because they're not funny.
It's not funny. It's not interesting. There's no drama to it. That being said,
here's a show about a dude who handles his shit.
I think Captain America was a good example. In the Marvel movies, you didn't watch those, did you?
I watched Ender's Game on an airplane. That was a cool movie. I don't really know
That was a cool movie. You're not great at pop culture.
No.
No. So Captain America was great in that he was very supportive. He was very caring. But the downside of that character is that he's a superhero, and superheroes don't talk about their problems. Superheroes, like I said earlier, like
they solve other people's problems.
They
sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, we have this obsession with righteous violence. Like, these are the clear enemies, and I'm an American and Americans fight. George Washington was a hero because he fought and he saved the country, or he created the country. Captain America doesn't. In one of the movies, even he becomes like a counselor. He's leading group therapy, and it's great. And then by the end of the movie, he's like fist fighting in armies and stuff. And it's like, because that doesn't make for an interesting story when people sit down and solve their problems together. That being said,
No,
it doesn't have to do with men, but I just saw a movie called Portrait of a Lady on Fire that is outstanding as far as the human condition goes. It's two women. It's not the male perspective by any means, but I feel like they captured the entire human condition in a movie. It was incredible. It blew me away. So definitely,
I'll watch it.
Yeah, I recommend that one. It's French. So
Portrait of a burning woman?
Portrait of a Woman on Fire.
Portrait of a Woman on Fire.
Yeah, or of a Lady on Fire.
Lady on Fire, whatever.
It just, I saw that and I don't even think I blinked. Like it blew me away.
Means a lot coming from you there. I'll watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking about all movies with men that I've seen lately, that it's always fight and win.
Yeah, fight and win, or be a dumb, funny idiot.
Yeah.
Tropic Thunder was an amazing movie that encapsulated both of them.
Yeah.
God, I love Tropic Thunder. That's a good movie.
Hilarious.
I didn't know Robert Downey Jr. wasn't black before that movie.
Really?
I didn't know. I don't know shit about fucking actors and whatever, So to see Robert Downey Jr. at the end of the movie, and then he's like this blonde Australian, I was like, what is this fucking guy?
Yeah. And what's funny is he was like, they were making fun of Hollywood doing like racial appropriation and like doing blackface. And so they were really making fun of movies and things that do that, where they steal the cultures. And then
they're making a fantastic point.
They nominated him for an Oscar for the performance.
Oh, they did?
Because they didn't get the joke that he was making fun of the people that nominated him for the performance.
That's hilarious. That's so hilarious. That right there, the fact that they didn't understand the joke, completely answers the question of, could he do that today? And the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah, probably not.
No way, dude. Blackface anything is just...
Same thing with Always Sunny. They took down a couple episodes where they did blackface, but they were making fun of the type of people who would do blackface. They were, so I don't know. It's nuanced, and I'm not authoritative.
Let that be a testament to the lack of intellectual prowess of the society at large. If they're unable to understand comedic references to big issues.
The term is called white fragility, and it's
white fragility.
White fragility, and it's exactly what it sounds like. How we as white people are super fragile around the subject of race. So a lot of people will react when they're called out for being racist, which, according to the experts in the field, everyone is racist.
Yeah.
So
two of my best friends are Asian, and talk to their parents for a second.
The issue that we run into is that societally, because of white fragility, we have equated racism with being a 4-letter word, with like being a bad person. So as a result, we can't we avoid confronting those feelings. But you think about like your neighborhood. Are there a lot of people of color there? I'm guessing not, because people are very segregated. But we don't think about that. We run into other races at work all the time. But then we go into our own respective bubbles. So the fact that we've equated that with being negative means that a lot of it gets pushed down, which, like I said earlier, comes back up as much more blown out of proportion things that are generally awful. So white fragility is the inability to face that. That, like, I think of the white suburban mom who gets accused of acting racist towards people, and probably is, and responds with anger, like the cliche Karen. Um, it's like the inability to look past your own experience and be like, oh, you know what, maybe I was out of line there, which not a lot of people have. I don't know how we got on this, or how I got on this tangent, but it's an interesting subject.
It is an interesting subject. Let's come back to it, because I have my own stories I could say about that, on being on either side of that spectrum. However, it does feel a little out of place. Something that I've been trying to do with myself right now in recent weeks is I visualize myself as like a star.
As a
big
what?
old ball of light. A star.
Okay.
Big ball of light. Everywhere I walk, I illuminate everything around me so brilliantly that nothing else shines brighter than me. That's all in here. All in my noggin. But I just walk around like that. And I saw differences in people immediately. It was nuts, dude.
Like
Walking
the way that
up
they
to
responded
people,
to your energy?
the way they responded to the way I walked up to them. People noticed me from farther away, like a lot farther away. People who needed help with something, or somebody who just wanted to talk to me or whatever, would try to make acknowledgement from a bigger distance than the 10-6 rule, right? Like the 10-foot rule, acknowledge your customers 6 feet, talk to them. Much longer than that. Just by my envisioning myself as the brightest thing in my environment.
That's interesting. I'm going to try that.
Oh, dude.
That sounds way cool.
Yeah. It came to me one day. I was like, this would be an interesting idea. And I started doing it. And it's nuts, especially when you find someone else attractive and then you're bright enough to make contact with them from a distance. And then the time from you where you are to get to where they are, it's a very interesting paradigm. And it makes for very powerful first impressions.
I bet. Yeah, I bet it's like this like confidence trick almost, that like
it is a trick. It is a total confidence trick, because I might not be feeling that way, but I'm visualizing myself that way.
I'm gonna try that. That's way cool.
Enough. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I was glad to have come across that. But you have to you dim. If you're not paying attention to it, you'll dim.
Yeah.
So you gotta put yourself.
I've noticed that I do that, not so much anymore, but with a lot of people, I'll like put on a show of where I'll go out of my way to be funny and to be, tell jokes and really high energy and really try and engage people in this like subconscious need to be accepted. But that might be an aspect of my personality, but that is not me, I
get that.
And I think that it's ended relationships before. Like I'll have the energy for it for like 3 months, and then after 3 months I don't have the energy for it anymore, or I feel comfortable enough to not put on that show anymore. And then suddenly I'm not as funny as I used to be, or I'm not as engaging as I used to be. And then I think that it maybe gets perceived as unhappiness or something, but
I think that's a natural progression in relationships, right? Every girl, which is not many, so every girl that I've been with to a deep, intimate extent, very few can be counted on one hand. All of them exemplified exactly what you were talking about. They were this. They weren't smokers. They were engineers. They were astrophysicists, aspiring astrophysicists, an aspiring engineer, not a smoker, not a this, not a that, whatever. We end up being in a relationship, a very tight, deep relationship, and now all those things are gone. not an engineer anymore, started smoking,
Hmm.
never going to be an astrophysicist, you know, doesn't do this, doesn't do that, doesn't do this. But, you know, being the agreeable person that I tend to fall into, just accept those things as like, oh, this is the person. But that's like the right thing to do, right? Like, if you do enjoy that person, you will realize the fact that during your dating phases, everyone has a facade.
Yeah.
Maybe not me, maybe not you, but others do. Most others do.
Oh, I think I definitely do. I think a lot of people do.
Not everybody is wholly honest right up front.
Hmm.
You know, which I've always been entirely honest right up front. So it was a weird learning curve, being like, oh, not everyone does what I do.
Not everybody wants that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the Church of Satan. I think. I don't know. I might be getting that from secondhand, but they have this example of like you're looking at a clock face, and when I'm at work from 8 to 5 or whatever, that's when I'm work Spencer, and so that portion of the clock is work. And then when I'm hanging out with you, I'm hanging out with Nick Spencer, and then when I'm out drinking at the bar, I'm like fun Spencer, and when I'm courting a potential partner, I'm charming and charismatic Spencer. And then they talk about how you really can actualize yourself by turning all of those pieces into just one person,
Spencer,
accepting the wholeness of yourself, and then having confidence in that.
Hell yeah, brother. I like that. That's really cool, because that's how I live my life. It's Nick o'clock. Always now, especially now. It's always Nick o'clock.
Yeah, I respect that about you. I noticed that I think from the first time we met that you were pretty much the same, whether we were talking by ourselves or like with customers or something, and I really respect that about you. All right, man, I gotta go. I gotta run. We gotta wrap this up. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, keep the faith, or listening, I guess. We're always trying to improve ourselves and each other. As always, this is mine and Nick's opinions. This isn't intended to be a treatment for anything. This isn't intended to diagnose anything. This is just two guys talking with a desperate need for attention from the internet. If you do need help, there's no shame in getting it. Counselors can work with you on money, or there's the crisis hotline if you feel like you're in trouble in crisis. It's 1-800-273-8255, and they have trained people ready to help you out. We'll talk to you next week, guys. You take care.
Take care. Also, to add to that, don't forget to look us up anywhere you watch podcasts or listen to podcasts. And moreover, you matter, we matter, but you matter, and there's no shame in getting help.
Yep.
Tune in next week.
We keep intending to do social media, but we're both hate social media, so who knows? Anyway, take care, guys. Talk soon.